Hare Krishna. Welcome to all the devotees to our Srimad Bhagavatam study class. And in this class, we are doing a systematic study of Srimad Bhagavatam, starting from Canto 1, Chapter 1, verse number 1, to all the way. The idea and the desire is to go till the end. So far, our journey has reached the second canto, 9th chapter, 36th verse. And this verse is not very regular verse from Bhagavatam. Actually, it's a very special verse in Bhagavatam. It's actually part of the Chatushloki Bhagavatam verses, the fourth of the Chatushloki Bhagavatam verses. So the previous three verses we have discussed in last two classes, available on YouTube. And overall, this is our 81st class. And we will now continue the discussion on the 36th verse of this 9th chapter of second canto. But before that, we will do some regular our ceremonies like Mangalacharan and the repetition of the previous class, summary repetition. So for that, maybe I would like to invite maybe Anuradha Mataji. Were you the person who was
Yes,
given this task?
yes,
Okay,
Prabhu.
Mataji, please continue.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Please go ahead.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gata Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Gurum Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavam Cha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Krupa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji. Maybe continue with this.
Okay, Prabhu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Vabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha.
Okay. So thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, very nicely recited all the prayers.
Thank you.
Really appreciate. Now we come to the next part of the class, which is the recap of the previous class. In the previous class, we have studied the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, verse number 3, which talks about the Rahasyam, the Prema Bhakti part. So for that, the service was given to our Dr. Ishwar Singh Ji of Rohtak, Haryana. And Dr. Saab might have done a wonderful job in summarizing the words, which I have already posted on our WhatsApp group. So would like to invite Dr. Ishwar Singh Ji from Rohtak to kindly enlighten us with the summary of the previous class.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, all fellow devotees. At the outset, I am really thankful. I express my gratitude for getting one more opportunity to partake in the Sunday service. Now, this evening I am supposed to summarize the class held on Sunday last. It was about the slope number, verse number 35 of Chatusloki Bhagavatam. And we all know that Srimad Bhagavatam, the divinity personified mammoth text of Vedic literature running into almost 18,000 verses, is a fail-safe key to understand and attain the spiritual goals of life. However, its 4 unique verses, nicknamed Chatusloki Bhagavatam, that is sloka number 33, 34, 35 and 36, they represent the true essence and crux of it all, being the very emanations and assertions from the Lord himself in response to Lord Brahma's 4 questions prior to his going for creation. Of the 4 divine responses, 3 have already been taught well, hammered well, and dealt with real fineness by Anurag Prabhuji. We are really grateful about it. Now, verse 33 and 34 primarily relate to Sambandha Jnanam, which means everything comes from the Lord. He is the source of all, including Brahmaji. If anything we see separate from the Lord, it is considered illusory or Mayavi. The Lord's spiritual form existed before creation and remains so even after destruction. That means the Lord is eternal, evergreen. The universe is just his material form. However, the 35th verse dealing with Rahasham appears more formidable, more bewildering, curious, at times deviating and detouring also, and philosophically challenging to the average and mundane mind. Hence, there is a need to delve deep and understand the verse in more details and in more depth. Now, coming to understanding verse 35, first we take up the translation part, which says, O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into it. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time uh, I am outside everything also. Now, this divine response from the Lord came on being asked by Brahmaji a question which said how the Lord carried out his pastime in relation to his energies. Now, on the face of it, this verse looks pretty confusing and mysterious even to a well-meaning, brilliant, inquisitive mind. But as one takes to Bhakti Marg for ascending on the divine ladder, the subtle hints about its being pregnant with Prema Bhakti do emerge, maybe in an esoteric or indirect way. However, this is the Rahasham actually we need to know. Vedic texts are replete with such indirect and esoteric revelations. One such uh, uh, one such description is there in Srimad Bhagavatam, where Krishna is telling Uddhava that he himself likes indirect mode of description. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord states, Naham Prakasham Sarvasya, no revealing cheaply or before inimical people. Even in the current confabulation between the Lord and Brahmaji, the Lord has spoken the highest truth to Brahmaji rather indirectly. So this is a way to have it with the Lord. Additionally, in the purport to the verse Srila Prabhupada quotes extensively from Brahma Samhita, saying the Lord is situated in Vaikuntha and at the same time entering into every atom of creation. Next, it says that the Lord abides in the universe as super soul. The same poses as a big mystery or enigma for the impersonalist who thinks how the Lord is all pervading and yet playing his flute in Goloka. This Sarasham Tad Angam Cha is the most confidential part of knowledge of the Supreme. It cannot be understood by intellectual pursuits, we know. It can only be understood by prema bhakti. One who is filled with prema of the Lord can see and experience him in every atom and in Golaka also. Those uh, who are imbued with bhakti see Lord's pastimes televised in their hearts alongside the Goloka. Regarding the importance of siddhis in this context, out of all siddhis attained through the process of jnana, yoga, dhyana, etc., yoga siddhi in bhakti is the highest and most mysterious and rarely granted by the Lord, being the most confidential, as is quoted in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 64, and Srimad Bhagavatam, canto 2, chapter 7, verse 52 and 51 and 52. However, the good Lord certainly desires that knowledge about Bhakti Siddha, Bhakti Siddhi be spread far and wide so that more people can be benefited. To achieve best results, this wonderful and mysterious Bhakti Yoga may be received and understood by only through the chain of disciplic succession. That is the best way to know it. And finally, to wrap up and finally rehash the spirit of verse 35, it would be befitting to recall Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's note in Chaitanya Charitamrita, which says, supreme affection for me is called love of Godhead, and that is the ultimate goal of life. Let me explain by a practical example the natural characteristics of such love. The five material elements are existing inside and outside of every living entity. Similarly, I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, am manifest within the heart of the devotee as well as outside his body. As the material elements enter the bodies of all living beings and yet remain outside them all, I exist within all material creations and yet am not within them. With this, we come to the end of this rehash. Hope I have done some justice to it, although the question still remains an enigma as far as how things are inside and outside at the same time. But broadly, I have got the hint, and Prabhuji may further clarify if there is something to be known more about it. Thank you, everybody, for patient hearing.
Yes. So thank you very much, Ishwar Uncle, Ishwar Prabhu. Thank you very much. So heartening to see you doing such enthusiastic endeavor to summarize the class, do all the hard work of writing the summary, and then even present before us while you are so accomplished eye specialist, and doing all that, and also taking interest and not only participating us but also encouraging us by your presence and by your comments and so on. So really appreciate your presence in the class and contributions also. And certainly you have done the justice. It is all what you have mentioned was discussed in the previous class. And only one thing I would like to add here, which actually I did not mention in the previous class also. And people who are in the study of the Vedic literature, specifically the Bhakti literatures, they do understand that the Lord is present in the heart. And one of the features of the Lord, while he is present in our heart, is the Paramatma feature. But here, when we talk about Prema Bhakti, we are not talking actually about the Paramatma feature of the Lord entering into the heart of the living entity. We are here mainly talking about the Bhagavan feature. Bhagavan feature. So, Paramatma feature, as a matter of administrating this material world, which the Lord creates from time to time, in order to manage, in order to maintain this material world, the Lord enters into the heart of each and every living entity. Not only the living entity, but he also enters into the each and every atom. So not only uh, uh, living entities have the presence of the Lord in their heart, but non-living, which is the dead matter, also have the Lord's presence. But that is the Paramatma feature. In the Paramatma feature, the Lord is detached. He's simply there mainly to maintain the material world. Be it a devotee, be it a non-devotee, and not even devotee or non-devotee, even if it is a dead matter, he is present there. So, but when we talk about the Prema Bhakti, when we talk about this Rahasyam part, we are not talking about the Paramatma feature here. Paramatma feature is there. Either you are a devotee or non-devotee, he is always there. But here what we are talking is about the appearance of the Bhagavan in the heart of the devotee because of the prema, because of the love. That is something which is the rahasya. And why it is a rahasya? Because the practices performed by the other path of the transcendence, which is namely like Karma Yoga or maybe Jnana Yoga, their process does not involve prema. Their process generally involve the uh, the karma yogis process primarily involve sticking to their uh, duties and so on. Then the process of the Gyan yogis is mainly about the pursuit of impersonal Brahman. So all of them, both of them, actually don't dive into the mysterious process of the Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga actually is a mysterious process. Why? By doing these activities, the love of the Lord actually appears in the heart of the devotee. And by that love, by that presence of the Lord in the heart, the devotee is able to see the Lord uh, in the heart. So, like what we mentioned, Prabhupada's purport, televised into the heart of the devotee. So that is the secret. That is the secret. That is the mystery, which is not possible by simply our own endeavor. That is one important part. It is only possible unless and until the Lord provides His mercy to the devotee, and that happens only when the devotee really dedicate himself in the loving devotional service of the Lord. That is the main crux and the gist of the matter, and why it is called as Rahasyam. So I hope that point, if you can understand and appreciate, then it will be easy to appreciate this verse. So with that, maybe we'll go to the class of today, which is the
Prabhuji, with this addition, I think we can now better understand what is inside, what is outside.
correct. Yeah.
So
So
Bhagwan
inside,
part
hmm,
is stationed at Goloka. He
hmm,
remains.
hmm,
The Paramatma part comes to the universe and this organizes everything. This is
correct,
you want to say.
correct,
So we
correct.
have the seed of Bhagwan in the form of Paramatma.
Hmm,
So Bhagwan is not there in us, but he is there in the form of Paramatma,
hmm,
whereas he sends his energy to us in the form of Paramatma. So he is there and he is not there. Both things are now more clearly understandable.
correct, Prabhu. Yes. So that should be clear. Like Paramatma and Bhagwan, we have to understand. So Bhagwan only appears because of the love of the devotee, and that is not
Yes,
a simple. That is not a simple achievement.
right.
That has happened, and that is not. You need to really say loving is something. Unconditionally loving is not easy for the living entity, because his natural tendency is to love or get carried away by the multiple attractions that is available uh, in the world around him. He is attracted towards maybe the opposite sex. He is more attracted towards name, fame, pleasure, and maybe wealth, and so many other attractions. That is what we are calling as Maya. So you heard about Maya in the previous verses, like 34th verse. Whatever is there, but if you don't see the connection with me, that is Maya. So we think that it is for us. We don't see the connection with the Lord. That is why it is called Maya. So that's what distracts the person. And as we associate with the devotees, as we hear about the Lord, we actually know more about him. So that is the main message. I hope that now makes it a little more clear.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So we come to the verse of class today, the 36th verse, the fourth verse of the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. And now we have several devotees with us. We would like to request one devotee, maybe Vrindavaneshwari Mataji, would you like to do the uh, service of reading and become my partner in the conversation in the class?
Yes,
Vrindavaneshwari Mataji?
definitely, Prabhuji. Thank you for the
Okay.
opportunity. Yes, I
Okay.
would love to
So,
do it.
so I will do some conversation with you just to make the discussion a little lively and a little more
Yeah.
conversational. That style of presenting class is a little more palatable for others also. So don't think
Okay.
that I'm trying to put you in some difficult spot or so. That is mainly just to uh, make the conversation a little exciting. So okay, now we have on the 36 words. Please kindly read the words. Read the translation.
Prabhuji,
Yeah.
just give me half a second.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
settling down.
Hmm.
I'll start reading in a second. I'm sorry for that.
No worries. Please. Hmm.
Verse 37. A person who is searching after the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, must certainly search for it up to this, in all circumstances, in all space and time, and both directly and indirectly.
Hmm. So a person who is searching after the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, must certainly search for it up to this in all circumstances, in all space and time, and both directly and indirectly. Now, there are multiple words in this verse. We will certainly look in a short while the Sanskrit of this verse. And so you will see that Prabhupada in the purport will emphasize on the word searching. So we are in search of it. Then also he will emphasize on in all circumstances. Then he will emphasize in all space and time. And then directly searching and indirectly searching. So that's how Prabhupada has organized the purport in Srimad Bhagavatam in his commentary. But let me make a little introduction to this verse. That in the previous verse we had talked about prema bhakti and talked about that it is a mystery, it's a rahasya, and the Lord Himself likes to present this rahasya uh, not so easily. That's also we discussed. Now, after understanding the most confidential aspect, the rahasya part in verse number 35, the natural question is how to achieve prema bhakti. So we understood about prema bhakti, that is the rahasya. So the reader who will know about it, that is rahasya. The natural question will arise how to be there, how to achieve that stage. Now the answer immediately comes in the next verse, which is the verse number 36, where both the means of searching and the process of attainment. Means of searching means how do we search? What do we do for searching? And another way of presenting it is what is that process of attaining that prema, attaining that prema? And the answer to that is the sadhan bhakti. So we at the moment are not yet there at the level of prema or even bhava, but we are actually not in a very bad position, because at least we have understood that is the goal, and we have developed some commitment towards that goal. We have also started to act upon that commitment. We are doing in various capacities, in various ways, the limbs of sadhan bhakti. So that is our position. But the idea is, this particular verse number 36 actually talks about that process of attaining prema, which is explained by the acharyas, and that process is known as sadhana bhakti. Sadhan bhakti. Actually, it is not sadhana, it is sadhan bhakti. Sadhan means by means. What is the sadhan? What is the means? That is why it is known as sadhan bhakti. Okay. So now we look at the specific verse, the Sanskrit. So Vrindavaneshwari Mataji, kindly recite the verse together with me.
Yes.
Etavad eva jigyasyam
Etavad eva jigyasyam
tattva jigyasunatmanah
tattva jigyasunatmanah
अन्वय व्यतिरेकाभ्याम
अन्वयावतिरेकाभ्याम्
यत् स्यात् सर्वत्र सर्वदा.
यत् स्यात् सर्वत्र सर्वदा.
Very nice. So Anushtup Chand, not that difficult to recite, but let us now focus our attention on the individual words of this verse. Etavad. Etavad. Etavad means up to this. Etavat means up to this. Now, up to this means what? Like in the previous verse, if we connect it to the previous verse, actually it refers to the what this up to this means, the subject matter of the previous verse, and the subject matter of previous verse, the prema bhakti. So serious desirers of prema bhakti. So etavad, up to this. Eva. Eva means certainly. So those who desire for prema bhakti, as explained in the previous verse, must certainly jigyasyam. Jigyasyam means certainly inquire about it, search about it, and the word certainly actually talks that it is something like a single one pointed determination. Like in Bhagavad Gita we have studied about vyavasayatmika buddhi ekehe kuru nandana. So this eva certainly actually talks about that one pointed determination. So jigyasyam means curiosity, desire, or maybe searching for it. Once somebody has a jigyasa, once somebody has a desire, curiosity, he would like to fulfill that curiosity. So before fulfilling that curiosity, actually the occurrence of curiosity in the heart is very important. So up to this certainly is to be inquired. Tattva here refers to the absolute truth. And Vrindavaneshwari Mataji, may I test your knowledge about what do you mean by absolute truth?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Param Satya, absolute truth. What does it mean in simple words?
Param Satya is Krishna only.
But how do you explain it to a 5-year-old?
To a 5-year-old. The origin of all.
The origin of all. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank
So, yeah. So, origin of all. Sarva Karana Karanam. That is Param Satya. So, any example you may like to give? What do you mean by Param Satya, like to a 5-year-old? We gave an example. We gave a.
I will give the example of Krishna only, that everyone, every jiva in this world, universe, comes from Krishna. So he is Param Satya.
Yeah.
Because
So, okay.
no,
No, that is fine. That is okay. So the example when I was talking was, I gave the example like, if you talk about from where do you come? आप कहाँ से आए हैं?
from the
You will take
father,
from my
then
father,
from
from my
father.
parents,
Yes.
from my parents.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
from where your parents came from, or my parents, or their parents, and then their parents came from their parents, right? So
Yeah.
like that, if you continue the chain, it ends where? Where does it end?
It ends at Krishna only.
It ends at Krishna. So that is what absolute truth means.
Hmm.
All other entities in this chain are relative truths. But Krishna is actually the absolute truth.
Yeah.
Absolute means that is the frame of reference. Like when you have to measure some height, you measure it from some frame of reference, like from the feet to the to the to the head, isn't it? So you have some basis. So that chain where everything comes, the ultimate frame of reference is Lord Krishna. From Lord Krishna comes Brahma. From Brahma comes the creation. In that creation, everyone comes like that. Okay, so that is the absolute truth. So I discussed this few classes away, but now again discussing, just so that the point gets hammered into the our understanding. Okay, so absolute truth, tattva. Then jigyasuna. Jigyasuna means those who is curious, the student. The student here, jigyasam is something like what is to be inquired, and jigyasuna is referring to the person. So that is mainly the student. Atmanaha means of the self, student of the self, something like a transcendentalist who is interested in spiritual matters and all that. So that is a person who is known as the student of the self. So up to this, certainly is to be inquired about the absolute truth by the student of the self. So maybe the broken word meanings probably can hint you what actually is trying to say. Then how that inquiry has to be done? How that inquiry has to be done? Anvaya. Anvaya means directly. And then Vyatirekabhyam. Anvaya Vyatirekabhyam. Vyatirekabhyam means indirectly. So sometimes we inquire things directly. Sometimes we inquire things indirectly. Indirectly means maybe in steps we try to inquire things. Maybe first we understand this, then maybe we understand this, then maybe we understand this, and then finally we understand the what ultimately we wanted to understand. So the building blocks like that is indirect understanding. But sometimes directly you are told, like in Bhakti Yoga, you are directly told Krishna is the supreme personality of God. Whether you understand it or not, you have been given that information first of all. And then you kind of started to figure out while studying various Bhakti Yoga literatures, etc., how this Krishna is the supreme personality of God. But some people don't even know that Krishna is the supreme personality of God. They don't even understand it. Now they are also, some people are engaged in karma yoga, some people are engaged in jnana yoga, some people are engaged in some other transcendental activity without knowing that Krishna is the supreme personality of God. So they are also kind of moving up the ladder, but without knowing. So that is something which is known as indirect. So directly and indirectly. Now yat syat, whatever it may be. Now, whatever it may be doesn't convey specifically what we are trying to understand here, but the next two words will give you a more decent idea. Whatever it may be, in all space and time, in all space and time. Whether you are in Ahmedabad, whether you are in Delhi, whether you are in Bombay, whether you are in Washington, London, Australia, you are in Siberia, you are in Moon, you are in Mars, whatever, wherever you are, in all space and time. This is something which is the most important subject matter that is to be inquired. See, in all space and time. And Prabhupada in the purport gives very nice examples. 14 pages purport. He has filled up all these subject matter very nicely. So we'll see that short while. Sarvada. Sarvada means in all circumstances. In all circumstances. In whatever stage of your life you are, in whatever mood you are, in whatever condition you are wealthy, you are not so wealthy, you are distressed, you are ruined, wherever, whatever, this is the subject matter which the which is meant to be inquired, which is meant to be understood. So that is what the Chatushloki Bhagavatam verse number 4 in different word meanings as Srila Prabhupada has presented in his commentary before you. Now we will once again read the translation. Yes, Mataji, please once again read it so that it
Yeah.
digests. It is once again synced in into our understanding. Yeah.
A person who's searching after the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, must certainly search for it up to this, in all circumstances, in all space and time, and both directly and indirectly.
So I gave you some good idea of in all circumstances, space and time, directly, indirectly. Now search up to this. Up to this means what? Up to this means
Prema
Vrindavaneshwari,
Bhakti.
Prema
Up
Bhakti.
to
Very
the
good,
Prema
very good,
Bhakti.
very good. And searching, searching is indicated by what words in the
Jigyasunam.
jigyasya,
Jigyasyam.
jigyasa. The word jigyasa is actually being referred here as searching. Okay, so those points are clear now. That is something which uh, we understand from the verse, the Sanskrit of the verse. Now we come to the purport. So
Yeah.
Prabhupada has given a brilliant purport, has spent 14 pages, elaborate purport. So initially, when you look at the purport, you feel like, what am I going to do by reading it? Will I really be able to understand it? But somehow, by the Lord's mercy, we could figure out few things from the purport and have kind of condensed it into small bullet points. So if you understand those bullet points, and then after you read the purport, you will be able to clearly see how everything has been organized by Prabhupada in the purport. So when Prabhupada writes these purport, he generally writes in a flow. Maybe only paragraphs, maybe he might be mentioning, but sometimes he doesn't break his purports into different subsections. So what we have done, as we have done in the previous verses also, we have broken the purports, highlighting the important themes that he has picked up in the purport. Now, first of all, the first point that he makes is that this inquiry about the absolute truth, inquiry about the prema bhakti, inquiry about the love of Godhead, actually is the ultimate goal of inquiries. So our life is full of inquiries. Our life is full of inquiries. Our inquiries are mainly about two things: how we can increase our happiness and how we can reduce our distress. Primarily, whatever inquiries we do in our life is broadly classified into only these two things: how to increase our happiness and how to decrease our misery. So whether we are a working professional, whether we are a housewife, whether we are a student, whether we are a newly born, or whether maybe we are in the final stages of our life, these two inquiries typically we make. But here, if we read this verse, etavad eva, eva means certainly, jigyasyam. So the best inquiry, or the king of all inquiries, is what? King of all inquiries is about what is prema bhakti and how I can achieve the love of Godhead. That is the main inquiry, and not only the goal, but also about the process or about the means of achieving that goal. So the ultimate goal of all inquiries is to inquire for unfolding the mystery of bhakti yoga. So as I was explaining, uh, the different kind of yogas Lord Krishna has described. Uh, in general, he says yoga can be classified into three: Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. Only three. Broadly, it can be classified as three. But when we talk about Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, ultimately these Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga has to lead you to the Bhakti Yoga. So if you do Karma Yoga properly, at the most you can get elevated to the platform of performing Jnana Yoga. And if you do Jnana Yoga properly, at most you can get is impersonal liberation. That's all. But ultimately, even after getting impersonal liberation, the ultimate destination is not that. That's where not the story ends. Ultimately, the living entity has to endeavor to rise to the love of Godhead. So that is the king of all inquiries. So that is what, first of all, we need to understand, and that's the point Prabhupada covers in the purport, in the opening of the purport. So there are various type of yogas, but ultimate is the bhakti yoga, and that is where the all inquiries need to lead to us, ultimately to the bhakti. Now, uh, now the next point is living entity gets entangled in the glitter of material world. So the obstacle is there. What is the obstacle? the material world in which we are is full of attractions. And although the job of living entity is mainly to inquire about the bhakti of the Lord, but when he sees the attractions all around, the living entity gets entangled. So specifically gets entangled into sense gratification, and the highest, topmost form of sense gratification is the sex enjoyment. So that is where the living entity gets entangled. So that is the main reason why he does not understand the process of bhakti or doesn't have interest in the process of bhakti. He simply, because the process of bhakti requires a lot of detachment from the sense gratification or sex enjoyment, etc. And uh, uh, and that is something which is a very difficult task for the living entity to get rid of. So that is the main challenge that is experienced by the living entity, why he does not inquire about the process of transcendence, not leave alone bhakti yoga, even other process of transcendence. Because of these sense gratification and all these things, the living entity is not interested to do that. Then Prabhupada builds upon the next point. What he says is, this should be done through disciplic succession. So if you want to attain Prema Bhakti, the goal of Prema Bhakti, that cannot be possibly attained by simply by following the process of karma and jnana. And in order to follow the process of bhakti, one need to do jigyasa. One need to actually search. How that search has to be done? Through disciplic succession. So this is one very important part that distinguishes bhakti from the other paths. In the process of bhakti, if you see Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the 64 limbs of bhakti have been given by Srila Rupa Goswami. And in those 64 limbs, the first 3 limbs are Shri Guru Padashraya, Shri Guru Dikshadi and Shikshanam, and then the third one is Vishram Bhena Guru Seva. So bhakti starts by surrender. Bhakti starts by surrender to the spiritual master, to the guru. But the other processes like karma yoga and jnana yoga does not have that necessity, does not have that mandatory aspect of accepting guru. So in the process of bhakti yoga, the sadhaka, the practitioner, first of all surrenders. My dear Guru Maharaj, my dear spiritual master, I surrender unto you, and please now guide me. What is the process of Prema Bhakti? And then once the surrender is there, so you know the surrender means what? Surrender means now you are supposed to behave as per the directions of the Guru. It does not mean that you become a slave. You have your intelligence, but ultimately you need to utilize your intelligence as per the guidelines given by the Guru. As per the guidelines, the Guru does not dictate every single action of yours in your life. So don't get misunderstood. The Guru provides a broader framework for you to act in your life, and that's what the practitioner need to done. And that is where the process of disciplic succession is important. Because how does the Guru learn? Guru learns from his Guru. How does his Guru learns from his Guru? Ultimately this chain goes all the way to in our sampradaya, it goes all the way to Brahma. And we see how Brahma is receiving that knowledge from Lord Krishna directly in this particular chapter. And that is how all this knowledge actually percolates down to human society at large. So this jigyasa should be done through disciplic succession. And Prabhupada then writes, somebody can explore scriptures. So the scriptures are there, like Bhagavad Gita is there, Srimad Bhagavatam is there, but still one need a guru. So you cannot understand each and everything simply by reading or trying to studying a book. So certainly reading books, studying books do provide knowledge, but many times we kind of become confused about what is written in the book. And the book does not speak. The book does not answer questions in the sense that you might not understand a particular aspect. The book doesn't answer. The book is something which is a little material object. All the information is there, but doesn't answer. So you need a living guru. but still one need a guru for guidance. So the guru can observe, guru can discuss. You have a person whom you can fall back, you can take your queries to them, and so on. So difficult to see for people to see the truth, although directly mentioned in the scriptures. Like in Bhagavad Gita 1865, Bhagavad Gita 1865, Lord Krishna very clearly mentioned in the end of Bhagavad Gita, Manmana bhav mad bhakta, madhyaji mam namaskuru, mame veshyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. It is very clearly mentioned, Manmana bhav mad bhakto. But still, there are commentators of Gita who presents Gita by distorting, by twisting the facts, by twisting the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, although it is very clearly written by Lord Krishna at the end of Bhagavad Gita. And in the end of any conversation, the person who is ending the conversation actually starts to give the conclusions. It's talking about the very important parts of the conversation that happened short while before. So this verse being mentioned in Bhagavad Gita is actually the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. And this particular verse, 1865, a very similar verse, almost 3/4 of it, has already been spoken by Lord Krishna in the 9th chapter. So not only he's concluding here in the Bhagavad Gita, but also he is repeating what he mentioned, verbatim repeating. Manmana bhav mad bhakto. So from that we can really understand that that is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, that is the conclusion of the Vedic scriptures, that is the conclusion of the Lord himself giving it to Arjuna. But many times people get bewildered, they get carried away, they try to impose their own meaning, own purport to the message of the Lord. So sometimes it is very difficult for the people to see the truth, and that is where studying in disciplic succession is very important. So disciplic succession actually means parampara. Parampara, the knowledge coming from old traditional way, from one person to another person to another person and to another person. It is something like a very well established university. Like for example, we have well established universities like Oxford and Cambridge and all that. Why do people like to go to Oxford or MIT or Harvard and Cambridge? Because they have such a enormous goodwill all across the world. They understand that if they enter into these universities, they probably will get the best of the best knowledge, and the best of the, able to get that knowledge from the best of the teachers there. So parampara actually means that the universities which is well established, proven track record and all that. So similarly, this knowledge of transcendence, prema bhakti, and how to do that prema bhakti is best possible to achieve by disciplic succession. That is the idea here. And that disciplic succession kind of phenomena is not very much evident in the process of karma yoga and jnana yoga. Although there are also teachers, like in karma yoga, you can inquire about your duties with the family priest, or maybe jnana yoga may also have their own teachers. But this is something really, really important, specifically in bhakti yoga. And then, so now I talked about in the third bullet about the jigyasa, the search part. As I was explaining to you in the beginning, that there are various words in the translation of the words, and you can pick one word, and that's where Prabhupada has kind of elaborately provided description in the purport. But you need to really relate to it. You need to really read a little more scrutinizingly to kind of understand that actually he's talking about the search part or the jigyasa part. Similarly, in the fourth bullet, I mentioned this is about varnashrama. So Prabhupada, all the way while he's talking about the jigyasa part, changes his track. And in the purport, he start talking about varnashrama. Now you might wonder why he all the way he's talking about jigyasa and all that. But now what does it mean by varnashrama? So actually varnashrama is also a bona fide transcendental path. It is also a bona fide spiritual activity or practice which is available in the Vedic literature. However, this varnashrama way of transcendence will not lead you directly to the prema bhakti. So varnashrama, the following of varnashrama is part of which yoga? Vrindavaneshwari Mataji, it is part of which yoga? Karma yoga or Jnana yoga?
Karma yoga.
Karma yoga, very good. So varnashrama is part of karma yoga, where the emphasis is given more on doing their nitya karma, naimittik karma, and maybe vihit karma. Vihit karma means the prescribed duties. That is what it talks about. But what does varnashrama do? Varnashrama purifies our heart. It brings orderliness in our life. It brings a lot of ethical and moral living in our life. And by acting and behaving like that, it also kind of makes the person interested in spiritual activities, the ashrama part. And by doing that varnashrama, uh, the person becomes purified, his heart becomes much more clean, and the heart now actually becomes much more prepared to accept a higher form of yoga, which is Jnana Yoga. So
Establishes the person in sattva.
establishes the person in sattva. Very right, Mataji. Very good. Very nice. So that is what the varnashrama does. It establishes you in the sattva guna. And when you are established nicely in sattva guna, that's where you will have much more control of your senses, much more control of your mind, and so on. And that's where it will be much more easier to launch yourself on the Gyan Yoga platform. So that is how it works. But the point here, from the perspective of the verse that we are studying, Varnashrama doesn't take you to Prema Bhakti directly, although it is a stepping stone towards Prema Bhakti or Bhakti in general. But that is why Prabhupada brings this process of Varnashrama. Now, here one more point I would like to mention. In Varnashrama, mainly you will see about 4 Purusharthas. So Varnashrama, what are 4 Purusharthas, Vrindavaneshwari Mataji?
4 Purusharthas are karma, moksha, dharma. Oh God.
Dharma, Artha.
Artha, Kama, and Moksha.
Very good. Dharma, Artha, Kam, and Moksha. Very nice. So the point is, these Dharma, Artha, Kama, Mokshas are Purushartha means the goals. So in Varnashrama, the practitioner is trying to achieve these 4 goals. He is trying to earn money. Why he would like to earn money? He would like to earn money because he wants to satisfy his desires, that is Kama. Earning money is known as Artha. And how do he want to earn money and satisfy his senses?
Through Varnashram Dharma, by performance of Dharma.
By performing dharmic activities or doing all these activities in a dharmic way. Like, for example, if he want to satisfy his sensual desires, there is a institution of marriage that is available within this Varnashrama system, where he can marry and then satisfy his desires like that. And like that, dharma, artha, kama, and then ultimately he understand that it is all leading towards moksha, liberation. So these are the 4 Purusharthas of Varnashrama. However, our acharyas, specifically like Jeev Goswami, has given a 5th Purushartha. So he says that 5th Purushartha actually is Preeti. Preeti means love of God, or Prema Bhakti, or Prema. That is Preeti. That is the 5th Purushartha. So that is what a person should actually aspire for or work for. But here, once again, coming back to the original discussion, so we were talking about the purpose of Varnashram is indirectly to serve the Lord. It is not a direct way to Prema Bhakti, but it is an indirect way of Prema Bhakti. And how do we know? We can quote some of the Srimad Bhagavatam verses in that respect. And the verse I would like to quote here is the 13th verse of the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto. Ataha pumbhir dvijashreshtha varnashrama vibhagasha swanishchitasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam. Swanishchitasya dharmasya. Swanishchitasya dharmasya means while situated in our own dharma, like we talk about dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So being situated in our dharma, our ultimate aim or goal is to samsiddhi haritoshanam, to satisfy the Lord. So like that, Prabhupada connects the discussion to the indirect part of the verse. So what did we study? Anvaya vyatirekabhyam. Anvaya vyatirekabhyam. So anvaya means directly, and vyatirekabhyam means indirectly. So that is why he brings Varnashrama. Unfortunately, leaders of the society today does not even follow Varnashrama. And then that is style of Prabhupada that he actually keeps on hammering on the modern day societal arrangement. So the today's society is not at all nowhere near to the Varnashrama system that was there in the Vedic times. So that is not there, and that is where Prabhupada hammers this, and he gives one very graphic example. So in order to explain this, he says that in today's society have done a lot of modern advancement, but without God consciousness, it is just like decoration on the dead body. So decoration on the dead body means many times we see the dead body is decorated with flowers, and sometimes in Western countries the dead person is decorated with maybe a nice suit and all that. But that is something which Prabhupada is saying that actually it is simply decoration of a dead body. Without God consciousness, actually a society is like a dead society. So that is how he keep on, while making the philosophical points and relating it to the purport, relating it to the verse, he keeps on hammering these important points for us to understand. So now we go to the next bullet. So Mataji, can you please read now from here?
Yes, yes. Prabhu. The ultimate goal of life is to attain love of Krishna.
Hmm.
Falling to
Failing.
failing to acquire that by practicing bhakti, tad angam, one continues in the cycle of birth and death.
So as I was mentioning to you, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So Prabhupada also probably knowingly, ultimate goal of life is to attain love for Krishna. That is what I was mentioning about the fifth purushartha, the preeti. The preeti. So interestingly, I was hearing one lecture and where uh, this definition of happiness was very nicely and devotionally described. So it was described that how do we know that we are making progress in life? So Vrindavaneshwari Mataji, would you like to make an answer here? How do we know whether we are making progress in life?
Prabhuji, there are, materially or spiritually, you want to know. If we want to know,
My question is only one. How do you know we are making progress in life?
to the point how much you are content in life, to according to me, so
Okay.
that will make
Yeah, yeah.
you like,
There could be several answers to it. Why I
yeah.
am making it a little interesting by asking you is, I just want to mention what the answer the person whom was delivering the lecture was giving. He said that
Yeah.
you can simply understand how you are progressing in life by judging, are you becoming more happier than previous time? Are you become more happier? Now that contains everything. If your wealth is okay, if your health is okay, if your spiritual progress is okay, generally your happiness quotient will increase. So that is what he gave this answer. How do you measure your progress in life? You simply try to estimate or simply try to evaluate, are you more happier than before? If the answer is yes, you are making progress in life. Generally, today in today's society, people gauge happiness only by gauging how much wealth you have in this life, how much name, prestige, fame, power you have in this life. But all this fame, power, prestige, is it bringing you to the level of happiness? Is it increasing the happiness within you? That is the question need to be asked. And then he gives another explanation to it. What really happiness means? What really happiness means? So he says that happiness means preeti. Happiness means love. Uh, How do you get this happiness? Only by understanding how much you love God. If you love God, if you really love God, then your happiness will really increase. So these two answers actually really mesmerized me. Really uh, uh, chanted. I was really enchanted by hearing these answers. So simple, so profound. Only two things. Are you becoming more happier than before? And how do you judge your happiness? Are you loving God more than before? If you are loving God more than before, you certainly will become more happier than before. So simply, I just wanted to share with you because the point was something very similar. The ultimate goal of life is to attain love for Krishna. Failing to acquire that by practicing bhakti, one continues in the cycle of birth and death. So that is what the next point Srila Prabhupada provides here. And then we continue further. Okay, Mataji, please read this bullet. Everyone, are you able to hear? Hare Krishna.
I am able to hear.
Yes, Mataji, please read.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, yes, please read.
Prabhuji, it has not appeared on my screen yet.
But not yet
Yeah.
appeared.
Everyone should take to bhakti in all circumstances. Sarvada. Sincerity is the only qualification. Quotes many references. Okay.
Hmm.
Fearful,
Okay.
worrisome situation, well
Hmm.
educated in Vedas,
Hmm.
materially well off, high, low
Huh.
birth, even
Hmm.
animal species are sinful.
Correct. Now he's coming to the another important word of the verse, which is sarvada, and that's where he start to explain that everyone should take to bhakti in all circumstances. Everyone takes should, because just now we discussed Preeti is the fifth Purushartha. Hmm. Preeti is the fifth Purushartha, and that is something which is the ultimate goal of life. All the inquiries that we are doing in our life actually should lead to Preeti. And then he's saying that everyone should take to bhakti in all circumstances. So you remember in the verse we talked about Anvaya Vyatirekabhyam Yat Syat Sarvatra Sarvada. Anvaya Vyatirekabhyam Yat Syat Sarvatra Sarvada. So here he's now exploring and he's now elaborating on the Sarvada part, all circumstances. So he's saying that anyone can take bhakti in all circumstances. And then in order to elaborate on this point of all circumstances, he provides some examples. He says that uh, even if your life is full of fear or worries, still you should take to prema bhakti, or still you should take to devotional service bhakti. So he quotes one verse from Skanda Puran. So that is there. So maybe you can refer it to the later after the class. But he quotes one verse for that. Then he quotes few verses where he's talking about even if you are well educated in Vedas, it is useless unless you take it to bhakti of the Lord. So that is what he's saying in all circumstances. So one of the other circumstances is saying that even if you are well educated, you should take to bhakti. Then he's quoting another verse where he's talking about even if you are materially well off, you are materially well situated, still you should take to bhakti. Then he quotes another verse that this time from Srimad Bhagavatam also. He's saying that even if you have a high birth or a low birth, high birth or low birth actually is mainly talking about maybe Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And these births are mainly considered high and low mainly because of the Sattva Guna or the presence of the proportion of Sattva Guna you have. Like that, he's giving that example. And some people are even lower, maybe who doesn't have even that uh, uh, consciousness, or maybe very animalistic consciousness they may have. So even if you have a very high birth, maybe in a Brahmanical family, or maybe a low birth, maybe in the family of an animal eater or whatever, like a Chandala, etc., still you should take to bhakti. Still you should take to bhakti. Even if you are high Brahmana, or if you are a low or a Chandala, still you should take a bhakti. And then he goes even further, even animal species. So can you name any devotee of the Lord who are in animal species? Vrindavaneshwari Mataji.
Gajendra.
Gajendra, okay, very nice. Any other?
And, I can only think of him.
Garuda, Lord Garuda.
Garuda. Yes,
And
Garuda.
then our very beloved Hanumanji.
Yeah.
Our very beloved Hanumanji. And then we may have Jamvand and so many others.
Yes, many.
So he's talking about even in animal species. So something which is all circumstances. He's elaborating on the point all circumstances. And then even if you are sinful means any example of a sinful person becoming a devotee?
Valmiki.
Valmiki. He was a dacoit. He was a dacoit. The Dasyu, Dasyu Ratnakar.
Yes.
Ratnakar Dasyu. Dasyu means a pirate. Dasyu means a pirate. So this is how he's elaborating. Now we go to the another point. Now he is elaborating on Sarvatra. Sarvatra means in all circumstances you can perform bhakti. You can perform, there is no obstacle. You can perform bhakti in this circumstance, in a very conducive circumstance, in a very not so conducive circumstance. So every sarvatra means everywhere you can do, in every situation you can do. Now he gives example of Bhagavad Gita 9.26. So 9.26 is Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. So can be served directly, and also at the same time he gives this example of direct bhakti. So you can offer Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, a fruit, a flower, a leaf, or water to the Lord, and then you can do direct bhakti. And even if you are a very poor person, poverty stricken person, you can do it. No need to worry about having a lot of wealth and so on. And then he gives on giving an example of a poor brahmana, this story from Brahma Vaivarta Purana, where a poor brahmana, he was not having a lot of resources. So he heard in a lecture, in a satsang somewhere, that even if you offer devotional service in the mind, you can perform devotional service. So he would every day wake up
I
and
think
then,
there is example of Sanatan Goswami as well, who served in the mind.
yeah, there may be example of Sanatan Goswami also, Mataji. And I will also give you one modern day example of this Sankirtan movement, where devotees have done like that.
Okay.
So Brahmana,
Okay.
so let me finish that example. Maybe some devotees may not have remembered it. So this poor Brahmana was thinking that, okay, let me serve the Lord by bringing water in the golden pots. So he did not have actually the golden pots, but he will imagine that he is going to the bank of the river, filling the water with golden, filling the water in the golden pots, and then he's bringing back to the temple, cleaning the temple, and then he's decorating the Lord with a lot of costly clothes and jewelry and all that, and then he's preparing very nice food stuff for the Lord, like that. So there's a story of this Brahmana in Brahma Vaivarta Puran, where ultimately the Lord gets pleased with this Brahmana. I mean, the story is a little more, but I would like to cut it short just so that we can continue to stick to the main point here. The point here is, even if you don't have anything, still you can offer it in the mind. And the modern day pastime is, if you read this book called The Salted Bread, this Salted Bread
Yeah.
book has been
Yeah.
written by a Russian devotee,
Yes.
and the Russian communist dictatorship government that is there in Russia, or erstwhile USSR, was
Yeah.
not at all favorable to the Hare Krishna movement. And then
Hare
they
Krishna
will they
movement.
will they will arrest the devotees. They will charge them that you are brainwashing people, you are not actually doing the right thing, etc. And then they will put them into the jail, and they will torture them and all that. But when the devotees were arrested and kept into the jail, they did not have anything to perform their bhakti. So what they did do, they were given bread for performing, for eating, and this bread was really not of a very good quality. So what did they do was, they dried the bread and then made beads out of it, and then using those beads they will chant, and they will have toothpaste. So using toothpaste they will put tilak on their forehead, and then they will imagine that there is an altar of the Lord, and then one person will start singing Mangal Arti, and then the other person will act as if he's playing Mridanga and all that, and then the other devotees will perform Mangal Arti and they would dance and all that. So like that they were doing also bhakti in jail. So not only this Brahmana from Vaivarta Puran is doing bhakti in mind, but our modern day Sankirtan movement devotees also doing it. So there is no obstacle in performing bhakti, sarvatra. And then can be served by Shravan and Kirtan. You don't need any, even one single rupee to do Shravan and Kirtan. Only need you is simply the desire for doing it. So Shravan and Kirtan. So you can do Shravan and Kirtan anywhere, everywhere. And whatever you do it for the Lord. So even if you don't do Shravan and Kirtan, simply by your activities you can do bhakti. Simply by your activities you can do bhakti. You run a business, you go to a company to serve somebody, whatever you are earning you offer something to the Lord, your bhakti is performed. And then even if you are any stage of your life, or any different consciousness, you are a materialist, you are a yogi, you are a bhakta, you can do bhakti. अकाम सर्व कामो वा मोक्ष काम उदारधि तीव्रेण भक्ति योगेन यजेत purusham param. So you can do bhakti anywhere, like that. So like that. So 927 Bhagavad Gita is Yat Karoshi Yad Ashnashi. So whatever you do,
Yadvachnashi.
whatever you eat, whatever you do it for me, do it as an offering to me. So Prabhupada is trying to elaborate that there is no obstacle in performing bhakti by elaborating on the word sarvatra. Yatsyat yatyat sarvada sarvatra. It's like that. Now, next bullet, Mataji, please read.
Yeah. Lord must be worshipped in all the stages of life, childhood also, and in all places, sarvatra.
Hmm,
Example, stages of life,
hmm,
Prahalad and Parikshit in the womb, Dhruva, 5-year-old, Ambarish, youth, Ajamila and Dhritarashtra, old age.
hmm,
Example, places, Chitraketu, heaven and hell.
hmm. So one example, so we were talking about in all circumstances, in all space and time, like that we were talking about, right? In the
Yeah,
translation. So here, in all circumstances, in all stages of life. So circumstances could mean different things. Uh, So one possible meaning of circumstance could be stages of life. Are you a child? Are you a youth? Are you an old person? So he's giving example not only of a child right now from the womb itself. And the example of womb is Prahlad Maharaj. He heard from Narad Muni while he was in the womb. Parikshit, he saw the darshan of the Lord while he was in the womb. Then Dhruva, he was simply a 5-year old. He was simply a 5-year old, maybe a KG student in today's terms. And then Ambarish, so he was a youth. He would do also bhakti in youth. And Ajamil was something like an 80-year-old. At deathbed, he was about to die. And then just before he was about to die, he kind of got this experience of bhakti. And then Dhritarashtra. So we have heard about the story of Dhritarashtra, uh, how Vidura encouraged Dhritarashtra to take on to bhakti. So old age. So his Prabhupada is giving a lot of examples to make this point clear that it is in all circumstances. And then Sarvatra means everywhere. So he gives this example of Chitraketu Maharaj. So Chitraketu Maharaj performed bhakti even in heaven and also in hell. And then Prabhupada also gives few examples that where he mentions that when the inhabitants of hell started to chant the holy name of Krishna, uh, they were elevated to heavens. They were elevated to heavens. Like that, Prabhupada is giving examples to clarify the points in the purport. Okay, now please read this, Mataji.
Shukadev Goswami also mentioned the same to Parikshit in second
Two one,
canto, first
two
chapter,
one double one,
seventh
two one,
verse.
2111, right? So 2111 verse is in Srimad Bhagavatam. Probably we will also memorize this verse in our shloka memorization classes. So in this verse, Parikshit Maharaj is being told by Shukdev Goswami that even if you are sannyasi or a yogi or a karmi, you should chant the name of the Lord. So that is what he's saying. So different stages, different circumstances means covering a sannyasi or a yogi or a karmi, like that. So that is another part of the purport. And then maybe another, maybe now only 2-3 points are remaining. So please read
Yeah.
here. Hmm.
Yeah. Through further quotations, Srila Prabhupada demonstrates that Shastra also indirectly, Vyatirekabhyam,
Hmm.
indicate that everyone should take to Bhakti Yoga.
So now he's giving examples of indirect. So direct
Yeah.
we understood. Indirect now also he's giving examples. So he's giving these quotations. So this is typically in the end of the purport that is mentioning here. He's saying that many times we hear in Shastras the text saying that no use of being learned in Vedas if not a
Yeah.
devotee.
Yes.
So indirectly glorifying devotional service. So condemning or kind of criticizing learnedness in Vedas is he's glorifying devotional service. Then cannot compare 1,000 Prajapatis with even one devotee. So like that. Then he gives another example: no use of being a renunciant, a famous philosopher, somebody famous or a philosopher if you are not a devotee. Another example. And then he gives another example: one should leave a place considered glorious than heavens if no glorification of the Lord. So if you are in a place which is very well, very opulent, maybe beating the standards of heavens, but there is no glorification of the Lord, there is no need to stay there. So like that, indirectly, Vyatirekabhyam, this Bhakti Yoga has been glorified here. Okay, final conclusion. Please read, Mataji.
Final conclusion. Always hear and chant Lord's glories. No need for any other progress. Other paths have limited benefits and chances of getting lost. Bhakti is unlimited and no fear of fall down.
Ah. So final conclusion is always chant and hear the glories of the Lord. No need for other processes. So as I was explaining to you before, the other processes are like stepping stones, but Bhakti Yoga is something like a direct. So like Prabhupada famous example is of the elevator and staircase. So staircase, you go stage by stage, one story, then second story, then the third story, then the fourth story. But elevator, if you want to go to a 100th story building, the top floor, simply press 100 and then directly you are taken to 100. So Bhakti Yoga is like elevator, and other processes are like step by step. So like if you do fruitive work, if you do Karma Yoga, simply you will be able to make your body or enjoy the body nicely. In discipline, your life will be disciplined, your body will be disciplined, and so on. But you will, at the most, you will come to Sattva Guna, and then you come to Yoga. Yoga means you, at the most, you get mystic powers or siddhis or maybe some uh, liberation to some planets and so on. Jnana means moksha. Ultimately, you get there. But in Bhakti Yoga, you are right from the beginning, you are told this is the goal. Prema, Krishna, this is the goal. So you may be on the path, you may wherever you are, but if you are keeping your eye on the goal, you cannot deviate. But in other paths, because you are not so clear about the goal, you are actually still searching for the goal. You may sometimes become carried away. You may become hopeless. I'm not going there. I'm not able to reach anywhere, and that is where there is always a process of going back or maybe falling down if you are on other paths. So that is the other point that Prabhupada makes. Okay, the last point probably. Yeah.
Impersonalists cannot access either the process or the goal, only possible via disciplic succession.
So as I was explaining to you, Bhakti Yoga, the mandatory requirement is Guru Padashaya. Other processes does not have that as a necessary mandatory requirement, or maybe you may be on the path but may not have accepted a dedicated spiritual master and so on. So impersonalists cannot access either the process or the goal because you don't have that understanding. Maybe you don't understand the process, the sadhan bhakti process, neither you understand the goal. The goal is prema, the priti, only possible via disciplic succession. So in only on disciplic succession, we know this is the topmost secret, this is the topmost mystery, and we come to know from our guru, from our literature, from our scriptures, and we are safe in that sense because we are following the process and we are following the process to achieve a certain goal. So the goal is clear, the process is clear. Only thing which we need to do is simply to follow the process. So that is where the secret of success is there. So that is the main explanation of the purport by Srila Prabhupada. I hope it clarifies everything and maybe you are able to appreciate how all the 4 verses of Chatushloki Bhagavatam, starting from Jnanam, which talks about what is our relationship with the Lord. So the Lord says, I am everything. Even in creation also, whatever creation is there, that is actually me. And then in the next verse, he's mentioning about how do you realize the Lord. Everything, if we are able to see in relation with the Lord, is actually we are realizing the Lord. But if you don't see it, we are not realizing it. Actually, that is Maya. That's what he mentions. And then he talks about the ultimate objective or ultimate goal, which is Prema Bhakti in the 35th verse, where he's talking about that like I enter into like the material elements enter into the creation and still remain outside the creation. Similarly, I remain outside the creation but also enter into the creation. And entering into the creation is actually is the hint given there is entering into the heart of my devotees. And entering into the heart of Bhagavan is actually representative of Prema Bhakti. And then finally, the curiosity is there if we are supposed to achieve that prema bhakti, how do we do that? Then we need to do the sadhan bhakti. Sadhan bhakti means bhakti in practice. How do we practice it? And that's what the book Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu talks about, 64 limbs of bhakti, where Rup Goswami ji has given 64 items of bhakti, which if we perform, even if one anga, if we think 9 limbs of bhakti like Shravan, Kirtanam, Atma Nivedanam, Pad Sevanam, Sakhyam, Dasyam, like that, 9 processes, even if we do one anga sincerely well, it is potent enough to take us to Prema Bhakti. That is what we learned from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So like that, everything in 4 seed verses have been given, and whatever you are now going to read in Srimad Bhagavatam is actually something like, which is an unfolding of a tree from these seed verses. So that's what we would, I would like to conclude here. All glory to Srimad Bhagavatam, all glory to Srila Prabhupada. Any takeaways, comments and questions, maybe we can discuss now. Was it clear, the Chatushloki project?
Yeah.
It was a project.
Yes.
It was a big project for me. Yeah.
So we can also understand that Anvay is, as you said, Prabhuji, that it is a direct process and Vyatirek is indirect process. Like the languages of Upanishad, they point to
Correct.
the ultimate truth.
Correct. Correct.
So that is indirect way.
Or Vedas. We can also say
Or
Vedas.
Yeah.
Where we are talking mostly about Karma Kanda.
Yeah.
And then
Even the
Upanishads.
13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita,
Correct.
it's kind of indirectly telling about
right.
Supreme
Right.
Personality.
But the middle 6 chapters is directly mentioning Bhakti, where it talks about this is the most confidential part. He specifically mentioned this is the most confidential part. Definitely. But because Arjuna had asked earlier in Bhagavad Gita about the 2 processes. One is the meditating on the impersonal, and then the worshipping the personal aspect. So the personal aspect part was clarified, but then Lord, in order to answer that impersonal aspect, talks about the 13th chapter and so on, like that. That is how the flow in Gita goes.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for this.
Thank you for a very receptive and a very curious audience to the class. So really appreciate everyone who joined in these sessions, and not only joined, actually many of you encouraged me to, by your comments, that you were able to understand it and so on. So I was really helped by your encouragement. So thank you very much for that also. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Anuradha. Yeah.
Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes.
Very enjoyable. Actually, it is, I think, Prema Bhakti gradually showing itself. This is how I see.
Okay, so now you are able to grasp little understanding of what it is all about and how it is to be done.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Like
Very nice.
shoe company Adidas, just do it. You have shown the path and the process.
Just do it is Adidas or Nike?
Nike or something Nike. Like some shoes.
Nike.
Okay.
Yeah. Some company. Yes, just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. Yes. Also, Prabhuji, last time you were asking about I am in you and you are in me. Isn't it? You mentioned that.
Yeah, in some shlokas in Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, it is there in Bhagavad Gita.
I am in you, but you are not in me.
No, I am in you and you are in me. What does it mean is I am in the heart of my devotees and devotees are in my heart.
I see. Okay.
So I think that is the 29th verse on the 9th chapter. I may be wrong, but you can check. So I am in you, not Teshu Chapyam, something like that it goes. What does it mean is I am in the heart of my devotees and the devotees are in my heart.
Okay. I have your back, as Bush, our president says, I have your back. No matter what you do.
Okay. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Now we continue to meet in the next class.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Okay, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
It was enjoyable.
Thank you. Oh, Vidya Mataji, thank you very much. Yeah.
It
Okay.
was enjoyable,
Okay.
very,
Thank you.
very comprehensive,
Uh,
but very difficult to sustain.
yeah.
Would need reading it many times to keep it in mind.
Correct,
Thank
Mataji.
you
Correct.
very much for
Thank you, Mataji.
comprehensive discussion.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.